They say the woods are quiet at night. That's a lie. The forest breathes. It shifts, it groans, and sometimes, if you stand still long enough, you can hear it whisper your name. It was late October when my friends and I decided to go camping in the Ravenwood National Forest in northern Washington. 6 of us, lifelong friends, all chasing that last rush of adventure before winter came. The trip wasn't supposed to be anything more than beer, campfires, and laughter echoing through the trees. But those trees were older than anything we'd ever known. They stretched so high they swallowed the sky, and when the wind slid between them, it carried something else, something that felt alive. We arrived just before sunset. The sky was bruised purple, and a thin mist rolled across the forest floor. It wasn't fog, it was too thick, too low, almost like it crawled instead of drifted. "Creepy as hell," said Marcus, our self-proclaimed tough guy. He forced a laugh, but it didn't sound real. We set up our tents near a small clearing beside a creek. The air smelled wet and earthy like moss and rot. Every now and then, we'd hear the crack of a distant branch, followed by silence that stretched too long. That silence, it had weight. When night finally fell, it fell hard. The stars vanished behind thick clouds, and the forest turned black, real black, the kind that eats light. The fire was the only thing keeping us tethered to reality. I remember staring into those flames and feeling something behind me. A pressure, not a sound, not a shadow, just presence. "Did you hear that?" Jenna whispered. We froze. There was again a faint crunch, like footsteps moving just beyond the tree line. Slow, careful. "Probably a deer," said Adam, though his voice trembled. "But deer don't stop moving when you turn toward them, and they sure as hell don't breathe out loud." We sat there in silence, the fire popping, our eyes locked on the woods. The sound stopped. Then a single knock on a tree. Sharp, hollow, knock. We waited. Knock. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, almost rhythmic. "Some idiot messing with us," Marcus muttered, grabbing his flashlight. He shined it toward the sound, slicing through the dark, but there was nothing, just the endless wall of trees. The light flickered once, then went out completely. Marcus cursed under his breath and smacked it against his palm. Dead batteries. That's when I saw it, just for a second, in the space between 2 trees. A shape, tall, thin, too tall. It was gone when I blinked. "Let's just go inside the tents," Jenna whispered. Her voice was shaking. "It's cold. We're just tired." We did, but none of us slept. The forest was alive all night. The wind howling, the trees moaning, and somewhere in that chaos, a faint whisper, low and broken, circling the camp like a chant. By morning, the fog was thick enough to hide the sun. Our campsite looked different. The ground around the fire pit was damp, and someone had drawn a shape in the dirt. It looked like a spiral, but uneven, carved deep by fingers or claws. Who did this? I asked. Nobody answered. We brushed it away, packed up, and decided to move deeper into the woods toward a lake we'd seen on the map. The trail narrowed as we walked, and the mist hung heavy, muffling our voices. About an hour in, we found something else. A small wooden cabin half swallowed by vines and decay. Its windows were shattered, the door half off its hinges. "Looks abandoned," Marcus said, grinning. "Let's check it out." I wanted to say no. Every part of me screamed, "Don't go in there." But he was already walking up the porch. Inside, the air was thick, stale, like something had died there a long time ago. The walls were covered in carvings, spirals, symbols, and crude stick figures that looked almost human. Jenna covered her mouth. "This is sick." On the floor was an old lantern and a pile of bones. Small ones. Too small to be animal. "Jesus," Adam whispered. "Let's get out of here." Marcus was staring at something scratched into the wall near the door. It read, "Don't stay after dark." "It watches." He laughed, but it was hollow. Guess we missed a welcome sign. We left fast. Nobody said a word until we were back on the trail. The woods felt different now, denser. The light barely made it through the canopy. And every time we stopped to catch our breath, it was there again, that sound of branches shifting, footsteps in the distance, getting closer, then stopping. That evening, we set up camp again by the lake. The water was still, perfectly still, like glass. I walked to the edge to fill my canteen and noticed something red swirling just beneath the surface. At first, I thought it was a reflection of the setting sun, but when I knelt down, it wasn't. It was blood. I stumbled back. "Guys," I called, "you need to see this." By the time they reached me, the water was clear again, the blood gone. Marcus smirked. "You're seeing things, man." But that night, the woods proved me right. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a noise, a soft dragging sound near the tents. I peeked outside. The fire was almost dead, embers glowing faintly. Something was moving between the trees. I could see it only when lightning flashed across the lake, tall, skeletal, its movements wrong, like its joints were bending the wrong way. It stopped at the edge of the light. Then its head tilted, slow and unnatural, like it was studying me. The next flash of lightning. It was gone. I woke everyone up. Marcus thought I was joking until we noticed Jenna's tent was empty. Her backpack was still there. Her shoes. Her flashlight. We searched the woods, calling her name, our voices breaking through the storm, but she never answered. Then Adam screamed. He was pointing at something nailed to a nearby tree. It was Jenna's necklace, the one she never took off, hanging from a branch, dripping red. Her blood wasn't fresh. It was black. I don't know how long I ran before I stopped hearing Tom's voice. The trees swallowed sound. Even my breathing seemed muffled, trapped inside the damp air. The flashlight had gone out completely. The moon was just a pale corn behind moving clouds. I tried to orient myself, but every tree looked the same. Dark trunks rising forever, the same moss, the same whisper of leaves brushing each other high above. When I called out, my voice didn't echo. It just disappeared, like the forest had taken it. For a while I stood still. I listened. Silence. Then, faintly, a rhythmic tapping, like something hanging from a branch, swaying. I thought of Lena, of the way she screamed, of how quickly that scream had cut off. The fog began to move again, not drifting, but rolling like waves of breath from something unseen. The temperature dropped sharply, enough that my breath came out in thick plumes. I turned in a slow circle. No sound of animals. No insects. Not even the crackle of branches anymore. Only that tapping. I stepped toward it. Each footfall sounded too loud. Something dangled ahead, a shape long and dark, twisting in the faint light. I took one more step, and the beam from my phone's dying screen caught the glint of metal. It was a camping lantern, spinning gently from a branch by its handle. Beneath it, the dirt was disturbed, drag marks, deep and wide, vanishing into the fog. I should have turned back, but I kept going, pulled by some cold curiosity. The mist thickened again. I felt against my skin, heavy, wet, and faintly warm, as though it had a pulse of its own. When the wind shifted, I heard whispering. Not words, just sound. Then, slowly, the sounds formed into words, echoing my own name. Evan. It came from everywhere. I froze. My body refused to move. The whisper came again, this time behind me. Evan. When I turned, I saw them, figures standing in the fog. Dozens. Their shapes faint and colorless, like shadows burned into smoke. They didn't move. They didn't breathe. They simply watched. One of them stepped forward, its shape blurred with every motion, as if it couldn't decide whether it existed. It raised an arm. The sleeve hung in tatters, and beneath it, there was only darkness. It pointed at the ground near my feet. I looked down and saw my own footprints filling in behind me, one by one, as if the forest itself were erasing where I'd been. My phone went black. The last flicker of the screen showed a distorted reflection. Me, standing in a clearing I didn't recognize. And behind me, far too close, something tall. I dropped the phone and ran. I don't remember falling, but when I opened my eyes, the world had changed. The fog was gone. The sky was lighter, a dull gray. It felt like dawn, except no birds were singing. My clothes were wet. My hands were scratched raw. In the distance, I saw what looked like a fire pit. Relief flooded me. I thought maybe it was another group of campers. I shouted, but the sound came out hoarse. I staggered forward until I reached the clearing. The fire pit was cold. Beside it, half buried in mud, were the remains of our tents, torn, empty, and there, arranged in a perfect circle around them, were stones carved with markings I couldn't understand. Something about them felt wrong. The symbols weren't human. They curved and intersected like roots or veins. Wind stirred behind me. I turned and saw the figures again, forming out of thin air. Only this time, they weren't standing still. They were closing in. Their shapes were clearer now. Human outlines, but the faces were hollow, eyes burning with dim red light. Each one moved without sound, the mist curling off their forms. I backed away, heart slamming. "What do you want?" I yelled. They stopped, and from the center of the group, a voice spoke, not loud, but deep, like the ground itself was answering. "Stay." The forest darkened around me. The air thickened until it felt like trying to breathe through water. I stumbled backward, tripping over the stones, and fell. The ground rippled beneath my hands, soft, alive, moving. The whispering returned. hundreds of voices at once. Then, a pressure in my chest, cold fingers or roots slid around my ribs. I screamed. The sound barely made it out. The figures leaned closer. Their eyes flared brighter, and through that crimson haze, I could see something vast behind them. Something the forest, part of it, older than language. It wasn't watching us. We were inside it. The ground beneath me opened and the forest exhaled. They found the campsite a week later. Park rangers said the fire pit was still warm, though no one had been there for days. They found no tents, no gear, no footprints. Only a circle of trees bent inward, their trunks blackened as if by heat. On the forest floor lay a single phone, its cracked screen looping a video. A blur of fog, a lantern swinging, a voice whispering a single word. Stay. If you ever find yourself camping in a national forest, listen carefully. When the wind stops, when even the crickets go silent, leave. Don't look back. Don't try to explain the whispers. Just run. And if stories like this one keep you awake tonight, make sure to subscribe for more true and terrifying tales from the dark. Because out there in the quiet places, something might already be watching you.